Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Fire Emblem Blazing Sword Let's Play. Sorry, but this time it's only me doing the commentary. Aww. Yes, it's late at night, Livia's asleep, and Zane's on the other side of the world, so guess it's just me this time. So anyway, after, we met the Legend Athos and got an idea of what to do, we're now heading off into Biran, because, there's so much inconsistency with whether or not it's Bern or Biran. It's absolutely ridiculous. That person we just saw, that's actually Sophil's dad, funny enough. We'll see more of him in the next chapter, but right now we're moving on into, we're making our way there, and before we can get there we have to just deal with some stuff because the Black Fang are after us at the end of the day. But what's interesting about this chapter is that depending on your lord's levels, this chapter changes, and since the entire layout and everything changes, as well as who can you recruit and who you fight. Because the stipulation for this chapter, this one in particular, is Eliwood, Lyn, and Hector's levels have to be over 50 combined by the time you reach this chapter 23. If they're lower than 50, you do a different one where you recruit Wallace and you face Lloyd. If you do it and it's higher than 50, which I've done, it's, you face Linus and you play this chapter. This one is generally, I think it's the harder of the two. But, yeah, I think it is the harder of the two. But again, it all depends. Ironically, this is the one, out of the two, I tend to do this one least, because usually my lords aren't that strong by the time, I reach that point, mainly because I skip straight to the Eliwood part, so I don't have that much time to train Lyn, because as you can see in this playthrough, Lyn's already capped at level 20, Hector's almost there, and I think Eliwood's around level 17, so that's a combined total of 56. Yeah, so I'm 6 levels above, which this does mean, however, for the Hector hard mode run, I'm going to have to purposely make it so that Eliwood, Hector, and Lyn are lower than level 50, so I usually do the normal strategy of I'll make them all around level 15, then focus on the other units. This might sound a bit bad or daunting, but not really, because again, there are other units that can outclass them, but it also means by this point, or even earlier, we can have more pre-promotes already raring to go. Oh, speaking of which, this is the chapter where a lot of people promote into advanced classes. Not all of them, but a good chunk. This is where we start seeing a lot of them, upgrade into, thing. Yeah, a little late for compared to Binding Blade, where it was as early as chapter 14X, and I think even earlier than that, where I started upgrading people into their thingamajigs. But that's just how it goes. So anyway, yeah, Pent and Louise are the ones who they're going to help us get an audience with Bern, because they have noble lineage and authority. I do and this is kind of a meme on the internet where Eliwood's okay, we need this guys to go to Bern, let's just put jackets on them. Perfect. It's a classic. All they're missing now is a fedora hat. They have the trench coat, now all they need is the fedora hat, and it's a perfect setup. It's kind of silly, but hey, whatever works. But I like that Blazing Sword does put more emphasis on the secondary characters, since Pent and Louise could have easily been a one-time deal, we met Athos and that's it, but no, they actually do stuff for this small portion of the game, and I like that. I like both of these characters, I think they're cool. So yeah. Actually, I don't remember if the dialogue's the same depending on the which one you go to first. All I know is that boss is different and stuff like that. And yeah, Hawkeye's giving us the Heaven Seal, which we're going to get next chapter and use them. We don't use it just yet, because apparently the Lords aren't good enough, though Lyn's levels and stats say differently. And if you're wondering, yes, Lyn is going to be the one who first promotes in this playthrough, because Hector's not capped yet and Lyn's just doing too well. It's unbelievable. That's the one benefit Lyn has over Eliwood and Hector. None of her promotions are fixed. So, granted, she is the worst of them, but, if you get a good one, you can promote her the earliest, which is a good thing, and is certainly working out well here. So anyway, you meet the brothers Lloyd, Linus, and Little Nino. This is one of the reasons I really like the Black Fang, because Lloyd and Linus, though they are dangerous, they do seem like nice guys, especially when they're around Nino. They're strong fighters, and they'll listen to their dad, and they are murderers, so to speak, but they just have, they have a good brotherly vibe, and the way they treat Nino, it's they actually do really treat her she's part of the family. They see that she's a good girl, and bless her. It's just, I really like that. I really like it when, bad guys, they're not always just bad. They have, like, they either just have their nice moments or just do chill things. That's one of the things I find so intriguing about characters like, you know, Griffith from Berserk or Esdeath from Akame Got Killed. Like, they have their chill moments to just relax and talk with people, and they're not always just evil all the time. Sometimes they're just really laid back and happy about things. And I like that in bad guys. I mean, I'm all for having bad guys be really evil and stuff and really malicious, but sometimes it's nice to just see them be more human, so to speak. It's really cool. Now, see, even Legault's getting a bit to talk about what's going on. And I really like how Blazing Sword, everyone feels more involved in the narrative. I mean, other Fire Emblem games do this too, but here in particular, you really feel like everyone that gets recruited has something to offer. They're not just there because, you know, I need a new unit for my team. Get here. After this chapter, we will literally say nothing to you. You know, it's kind of a shame when Fire Emblem games do that, but I always do like when they go out of their way to involve everyone. In terms of like, well, when I was going on, once again, you know, Edward's getting more time with Ninian. Giggity. Yeah. Though admittedly, I'd like to see this game remade just to give it a presentation boost. So maybe we could see like Eliwood and Ninian and Hector thing doing a lot of like, you know, the 3DS character expressions during the cutscenes. I think that'd be really cool because you can see Hector getting really angry, Lyn looking very disapproving, Ninian being adorable, and Eliwood trying to be all not chivalrous. I think that'd be really cool because again, that's one thing. The 3DS games, yeah, they were a lot more animated with their cutscenes and stuff like that. I mean, to be fair, it's a GBA era; they can only do so much. These portraits do look wonderful, so if it does get a remake, I hope that happens because that would be really, really, really cool. Just to see how see the characters really put across how lively they can be, especially in regards to Hector and Lyn. Like, they'd be arguing 24/7. You could see them doing the hand gestures constantly. It was really funny. So, Lloyd and Linus have spotted us. You know, I'm sure like the Metal Gear thing went off in their head like. So Lloyd is off to go, you know, tell the dad, and you know, Lloyd is the more sensible of the brothers. He's more mature and he's more level-headed because they called Linus like the mad dog or the rabbit dog. I think it's the mad dog, where Linus is more just like for running into the action straight away, getting in on the fight and stuff like that. So even though Lloyd's dead weight for backup, Linus is like, fuck this, I'm gonna, you know, think about that. And then even here, when he points out he doesn't want the villagers harmed, they'll fight people, but it's also, you know, we'll see this towards the end of the thing, they don't get innocents involved, and I really like that about these guys. You know, they are the bad guys, but they have a moral code to them. There's more to them. It's just being thing. There's a sense of moral grey. I love using that word a lot with Fire Emblem because it works, and it's one of the main reasons I like Fire Emblem. It doesn't paint war just the bad guys as black and white. There's always that. You know, there's that thing where both of them are on, you know, they're basically the two sides of the same coin. It's just a case of one follows a different path because of certain reasons. But they all have their own morals at the end of the day. But as I was saying about this chapter, one thing I do, like, even though I visit this one not as much as the other one, when playing this game again, I actually enjoyed this one a lot more. Because it's one of the more, it's quite the challenging chapter. I mean, it just has a lot of respawning units, but a lot of units it does have, even though they're not promoted. This chapter does not hold back with its fancy weapons. A lot of units, you've really got to look at the weapons they have. They have, like, lots of, like, Lance Reavers and Armor Slayers and all that stuff, which is really cool. And there's ballistas around. And in this chapter, because of the way it's laid out, oh, look, new guy. We'll talk about him in a minute. Because of the way it's laid out, it kind of like, you've got the main force going up from the left, but it does kind of encourage you to loop around with your flyers. But the ballistas are there to, you know, to act as like the real challenge for you. So as you can see, that guy's got an armor slayer and there's silver sword. You know, they ain't messing around. So I like this chapter because it does provide quite. Yeah, this guy's got a lance reaver. Oh, it does. You know, there's certainly quite the It's not just, it doesn't look too hard, but it will catch you off guard. I think that's the best way to put it. It doesn't look too hard, but it will, you know, it may get you. It's just, like, beforehand, I didn't really notice it that much this chapter because I didn't visit it often, but again, when playing this game again with the Let's Play and really going, like, focus on the chapter and what it's done, I surprisingly like it quite a lot. So, yeah. But also, I like the stipulation behind this chapter I really like, because one thing Blazing Sword likes to do is where depending on your unit's levels or a select number of units' levels, the chapters will change. Like, we'll see this later with chapter 25. I think it's a really cool... I honestly think it's a really, really cool thing they do, because not only does it add to the replay value, but it encourages players not necessarily not to use certain units or use certain others, but maybe focus a bit more on them and make them stronger. Just use them a little bit more, but not force them on thingamajig. Like, you're not forced to make the Lords super low level just for this chapter. Just maybe hold back a bit and let the other units have a go. Or in some cases, really push the Lords, really try to help them reach the highest level as quick as possible. Which I really like, because it encourages you to play a bit differently, but it definitely doesn't railroad you into it. Like, Binding Blade had this too, but with Binding Blade it was really a case of with Thingy, it was a case of you choose this path, these next 2 chapters are what you have to do, or with Thing you have to make sure Sue and Thing are this strong, or Shana and Thea are this strong. So this one, it's not as detrimental, if that makes any sense. Also, I like how they only usually do this for 1 chapter, not a good chunk of the game. It's like with this one, it affects this chapter, but whether or not you do this one or the other one, chapter 24 will be the same regardless. And I quite like that. I like how it's just for a one-time deal. It's not such a massive thing. It's a small detail, but one I ultimately like. Yeah, and also, as I was going about difficulty, this is where Blazing Sword really starts to step up its game in terms of how hard the levels are going to be. Alright, granted, the next chapter is not a good example, but generally, this is where Blazing Sword does get harder. And I think the difficulty here is done very well. Because it, not only does it increase the unit variety, but it gives the classes you face, but also it really likes to allow the units to use the stronger weapons, so you have to be a bit more careful. And just generally, the map layout, just the way it's designed, I've noticed there's more of a focus on dividing your army in this game, in the later chapters. Because in Binding Blade, in some of them, I mean, not all of them, you kind of always just huddle together, despite the levels being so big. Here, things are more spread out, so you got to be a bit more careful as to where you send your army. I think the perfect example of this is chapter 27. So this is where this game starts getting harder, and chapters also start getting longer. I mean, this particular part is going to be split into 2 because it's 50 minutes long, and I don't want to have that as one single part. So yeah, this is where things start getting longer. I will start splitting up parts more, but it means more videos to put out, and once again, Raven the Thingamajigs, because I remember I gave him wait, do I do it next turn? Or at some point I do, give him the drops, and then, his growth rates increase. Which, I'll tell you what, before he promotes, you really do see that take effect. Holy shit. It's pretty unbelievable. Yeah, but I've always gone on record saying I think Blazing Sword is one of the better designed games in terms of difficulty for Fire Emblem. I think it's very well balanced. I mean, others, they either start, they're still just as well designed, but they start much harder. I think a good example is Conquest, where it's just generally a much harder Fire Emblem game, but the curve is still natural for the most part. Endgame is where it starts getting kind of bullshit. Path of Radiance is pretty good. Mid-game, chapter 12 onwards, it actually does, when they start introducing Lagoos, it does get quite difficult. But once you beat chapter 17, then it gets really easy. Sacred Stones is just always easy. Binding Blade starts quite hard, with chapter 7 and stuff, but once your units start promoting, the game kind of becomes a cakewalk. You guys saw how, just everyone just kind of walked through people, yeah, whatever, doesn't matter. Look, when he just killed Sophia. Radiant Dawn is hard, and it starts on a really, really high thing, but then it just goes down, but you'll be surprised that if with enough training, Radiant Dawn can get really easy towards the end, actually. Not ever Sacred Stones easy or anything, but generally really easy. Actually, speaking of which, I think the only other Fire Emblem game, in my opinion, minus how unfair the chapters can be, the one that balances difficulty best, in my opinion, is Echoes. I'll talk more about that in a minute, but first, we're going to talk about this new character, Geitz, whatever you want to call him. So he's the pre-promote you get in this chapter, specifically. If you do the other one, you get Wallace back, but, Wallace. Geitz, for a pre-promote, he's overall quite good, and for an axe unit, he's a very good substitute if you want to use a warrior and say you didn't use Dorcas and Barter or they didn't become very good. So he's a really good stand-in in that regard, like an axe unit stand-in. Stat-wise, he starts with good HP and strength, everything else is not that great, and his resistance is abysmal, it's only 3. Like, that's really bad. But his growth rates for a pre-promote are surprisingly good. 85% in HP, 50 in strength, I think it was 40 in speed and defense, 30 in skill, 40 in speed and luck, 30 in skill, 20 in defense and resistance, which for a pre-promote is actually not pretty bad. You know, for a pre-promote, it's rare to get more than, aside from HP, it's rare to get more than 40, so having 2 40s and a 50, pretty damn good if you ask me. In terms of his performance, again, he can't. If you're looking for just a solid axe user, there are better, but he's certainly, he's perfectly serviceable and fine. Granted, berserkers and stuff are better than warriors, and Hector's here, but for what he's worth, he does his job just fine. I don't use him much because I'm either using Hector, or I'm using Dorcas, or I'm using Hawkeye. So he kind of like it's kind of like thingamajig. It's kind of like with my thing with like Zealot and Trek. I'm going to use like Percival, and I'm already using Lance and Alan. It's just like there's not really much point where I've already got these other units to choose from. There's something I also have noticed upon this playthrough with Blazing Sword, but overall, Geitz is good overall. One thing I have noticed with this playthrough with Blazing Sword, it really does like its axe units, because you get Dorcas, you get Barter, you get Hector, you get Dart, you get Hawkeye, and you get Geitz. I mean, there is Harken as well, but I don't count him because, he's a mix of both, and even then I just kind of class heroes as being sword-based. So, this game does really like its axe units, and some Fire Emblem games are like that, where they favour one particular class. I mean, you all saw with Binding Blade how much it liked its mounted units. I think we got like 7, if I remember correctly. Hold on, I'm trying to remember. Oh, Raven's just like, yep. Oh god. He always criticals on the double. Like, I think this bit, he criticals like after every second, every second attack. It's ridiculous. I think this level up is also really good. Yeah, see, those thingy drops are not holding back. He's getting all the good level ups. And I think next to Lyn and Lucius, Raven is the strongest unit in this game. So I wouldn't be surprised. See, look at that already. So I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know how it's going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if Raven goes up against the dragon boss at the end. Spoilers, by the way, we fight a dragon at the end. No, I would not be surprised, because usually it's just like Athos and the Three Lords, but I would not be surprised if Raven, given his stats, and look at that, does it 3 times more. Given his stats and the weapon he can get, he ends up, taking on dragon boss. I don't know how much he'll do, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's up there fighting. That one wasn't nearly as good, but you can't expect it to be amazing every time. Yeah, I also need to tell you, I do quite a bit of arena, I don't know if I call it abuse, but arena grinding here, only because by the time the chapter's towards its end, most of the units like level 19, it's like, I just thought to myself, I might as well get them to 20 and upgrade them rather than having to wait for another chapter. Oh yeah, shoot the knight! It's bad enough that archers suck in this game to begin with, but yeah, go shoot the class that literally has the highest defense. Though I think actually Hector has more defense than Osmond at this point. I'm not sure, but I remember Hector's defense gets absolutely disgusting. Also, just to let you guys know, if my memory serves me correctly, Fiora is the first unit to promote, which is pretty cool. Pretty cool. What was I on about? Oh yeah, in regards to difficulty, what was I on about? Aside from the fact that Echoes got really bullshit with, well, its RNG was just kind of very finicky, and the fact that its chapters got downright, infuriating and really annoying with the cancels and the respawns, I thought Echoes was very, very, very good in terms of difficulty. I felt the constantly very nice curve. No chapter I thought was a cakewalk, and no chapter did I ever think was way too hard, just really annoying. And I think despite, being so limited with its classes, it actually did make things quite fair with how everyone was. I mean, yes, like archers and stuff were really good, Falcon Knights were really good, and Dread Fighters were fucking awesome. But overall, I think it was very fair with how everyone was utilized. Though admittedly, I always thought Cavaliers were a little underpowered in the game unless you were like Matilda or Zeke. And maybe Myson. Maybe. I didn't use Myson that much, but I know he came in with pretty good base stats. But aside from that, because remember I made Tobin a Cavalier, it didn't work well, but I've seen Tobin be an archer and like, Jesus Christ. But yeah, and I also think it's kind of cute, like how many characters appear in Blazing Sword, like we saw with Faye, and even we'll see later with like, if everyone remembers what's his face from, we'll see him later in the chapter, Murdoch from Binding Blades of Field's Retainer, we'll see him here as well. And we saw Nino. We saw a lot of actual story characters just in-house conversation, and I think that's really cool. Blazing Sword does like to involve everyone, and I think it's really cool because I think the fact that it's a smaller scale plot, it can focus more on the people in this world, and I really, really, really like that. Actually, it's something I kind of, looking back, it's something I wish Fates did more, where I would have liked to see the retainers and just the other characters have more input on the story, rather than just, what's its face? The main lords. I mean, the only ones who kind of do have any input is the neutral characters. But, like, aside from that, people, like, once you recruit them, especially the retainers, they kind of just do nothing. Which kind of, I always thought was kind of a little sad. Not the worst thing ever, but yeah, I thought it was a bit of a missed opportunity. But Fates had many missed opportunities, bless its soul. Yeah, everyone's getting closer to leveling up. And Osmond at the moment, how's he doing? See, look, level 19, I was like, you know what? Let's just get him to, what's it called? I have to check, Lynn's not in this chapter because she's already maxed out. I don't think Hector's in this chapter. Yeah, Hector's not in this chapter either. Neither Lynn nor Hector are in this chapter. It's just Eliwood. I decided to give it to everyone else because I thought to myself, there's no point in putting Hector there if he only needs to kill one enemy and then he's capped. I'll wait for the next chapter. And also, apparently, this guy taught Sophia of history, so, I knew the young prince. I have a feeling who grew up to be a very fine and fair king someday. And then just in the future, someone's just like Jarrett, the dragon at the shrine, just laughing. It's like, oh, this is not going to go well. Oh, and yeah, the thing he gives us right now is the Earth Seal, which basically, I think it's the Earth Seal, where any unit, it's like a Master Seal, anyone can promote, because remember in the old GBA games, you had to be, there you go, you had to be a specific class with a specific, what's-his-face item. Here you can use it for anyone. If you're wondering who I'm using it for, I use it for Heath because he's the only one at the time that needed it. Like, I get an Elysium Whip later, but at the time I needed one and Fiora had already used it, so I was like, fuck it, Heath, you get it. Because everyone else didn't need one. I had more than enough. In fact, one thing I've noticed, like, by this point, I've got some promotions items left over. I'm like, wow, I really don't need it, so I can just sell them for money. They're quite generous with the promotion items in this game, or at least if you go out your way to steal them. Yeah, but and also this girl's going on to show, like, Linus is a good guy. They've done some things. And it's also kind of sad how the Black Fang is changing, which, again, it paints them in different light, and I really like this. I really, really like this. So yeah, with your flyers, you do kind of have to be careful, because even though the archers aren't as strong, they still deal a lot of damage, and these pirates have an advantage against you because they're axe-based, and unless you're a Falcon Knight unless you became a Falcon Knight with Lord at that point, you'd be lance based, and it's more than likely you will be lance based. Note to self: when I do Hector hard mode, be sure to either promote Heath or Thing before this, so I have. Oh wait, I'm not doing this chapter. So I completely forget that I'm not doing this chapter. I completely forgot. Yeah. So anyway, what next? I'm just trying to remember what I was going to say because I've got a lot to talk about. Just trying to rack my brain. Yeah, speaking of Hector hard mode, because while it is quite different from, most hard mode runs, we will be going through quite a lot of the same. Actually, before we continue, this thing is quite interesting. We don't see who it is. It gives you an item. But apparently, based on the evidence, this suggests that it's a future character going to see Harken, who worked for Lycia, but then I think it's something to do with El, but like either he not ran away but got abandoned or had to retreat, and he feels disgraced, and they went to infiltrate the Black Fang. So you don't see the person's face, but all signs point towards Harken, which now that I actually look at it, it does kind of make sense. I mean, I don't know if it's officially true, but if that's the rumor they're going with, I'd buy it. I'd be down with that, as they say. I think that house up the top right is the one with Murdoch, yeah. I don't know why I didn't skip this bit, but what are you going to do? Yeah, here it is. So that you see Murdoch. He has a little less hair than before, but he still looks kind of the same. Yeah, and it's also talking about the stuff going on with Sophia and stuff, and Murdoch's like, whoa, shit, they're onto us. I do believe we are being watched. I reckon the reaction's the same with every character, but it would be interesting if, like, say, the Lords went in there and it was slightly different. I must say, Fiora takes quite the beating in this chapter. Again, all this talking makes your mouth dry. Guys, who's got a fucking poison axe? Nice. I didn't realize a poison axe weighed less than an iron axe, unless that guy is just worse speed, but I'm just gonna assume that maybe the stats are the same, so this guy, that poison axe was really light. Funny enough, I don't think you ever get access to any of those weapons in the game, though admittedly I don't really see how you would use it, because you wouldn't, like, I doubt you would try and prolong the enemy, like, just slowly whisk down the enemy, unless it was a boss. If anything, you try to just straight up one-shot kill them. Because if Fire Emblem games is not, like, you rarely, unless you, unless it's a really hard enemy, or, like, maybe you're just holding up a choke point, it's not so much, you don't really want to focus on whittling down the enemy, you just want to straight up kill those guys. Which is why speed has always been such a big thing for me in Fire Emblem, unless, like, you're a knight, in which case you're not meant to be fast, but if any class gets really good speed, that's always a good sign in my book. I don't care which class it is, as long as they have good speed, I'm happy. Especially if it's a class that's not meant to. Like, if a knight ever gets good speed, hell yes. Like, Gwendolyn. It's not only that, but also constitution. If you've got high constitution, then you won't be weighed down. Which is what I've noticed with Dorcas, because his speed is low, but because his constitution is high, he can double a lot of people who are getting weighed down by their weapons, but he's not being weighed down in the slightest. Which is cool. Which is very cool. Yeah, we don't need the Lance Reaver against him. We just need to go straight up with the Steel Sword. Now looking at his crit ratio, I wonder how likely he would be to crit a what's-his-face with a killing edge. Probably be in like the 40s or something. Might even be in the 50s, I have no idea. But I definitely think it would be above the 30s. Now saying once again, it's like, now you gotta play Fire Emblem 5. Whenever saying crits, it's the Fire Emblem game I must play. Don't ever give him a killer weapon. It's like, now you gotta play Fire Emblem 36. I don't think there are 36 Fire Emblem games. There will be at some point, there will be. Can you imagine Fire Emblem 36? Well, at this point, all we need is 20 more Fire Emblem games after Fire Emblem Switch, and then we'll be at Fire Emblem 36. That'd probably be around like the 50th anniversary of Fire Emblem. Considering, you know, well, they're not gonna make I assume they won't make games like once a year. Though, though they might be at this rate, because they really do like to pump them out. So yeah, finally Fiora has reached level 20, and that's quite a good one to end off on. Typical, but good. Yeah, so like, oh, pirates and the women's like to respawn, and good thing you dodged that. Did you dodge this one? Yeah. Oh, boy. But anyway, this is the end of this part. Thank you all very much for joining me. When we next join, we're going to finish up this chapter, promote even more units, and we're going to see just how morally grey the Black Fang really can be, and also how King Zephyr has a somewhat complicated family affairs. But until then, thank you all very much for watching, and I will see you next time.